I finished Shadow and Bone and Seige and Storm, so now it's time to finish Ruin and Rising. If you haven't watched my previous vlogs on reading this Shadow and Bone series, then I highly suggest that you go watch them, because this is my very first time reading the entire series, so I basically don't know anything except from what I read from those other two books. I don't really know what to say in this intro because it's pretty self-explanatory. I've read the other two books and now I'm reading the third book. Again, I haven't read the synopsis in this one. There's gonna be a lot of spoilers in this video, so if you haven't read this book, then click off of this video right now. I mean, unless you want to get spoiled. Honestly, I don't know what to expect in this book because the last book I wasn't really a huge fan of it, but I feel like it was preparing for this third book. I'm hoping that there's a lot of action in this book because I feel like Leigh Bardugo writes action scenes very well, so we'll see. I'm just excited to finally finish this series. Then eventually I can move on to reading Six of Crows and watching the TV show. Alright, so I'm gonna get into spoilers now, so if you haven't clicked on this video, I'm assuming that you just don't care now. From where I left off on Seige and Storm, the Darkling took control of Os Alta. He attacked them and killed like a bunch of people. Then Alina tried to destroy both of them, and in the process, she survived. I think they both survived. Her hair turned white and she became like really like sick and stuff. She's reunited with Genya, but Genya is like, she's bitten all over by the Nichevoya. Oh, and they also took out one of her eyes, so she's missing an eye now. I guess in this book, they're gonna try and find the Firebird, and we don't know where Nikolai is. He tried to escape, but it didn't say like if he ended up surviving or escaping or whatever. Yeah, I think that's all I have to update you on. If anything, the beginning of this book will remind me of what's happening. So I'm gonna get started and I will check in with you guys a little bit later today. I'm hoping that it's gonna be really exciting because it's the last one, because this weekend I do have plans. It's almost my birthday, so I'm just like preparing for my birthday stuff. So I'll see you guys a little bit later today. Alright, so I'm on chapter 4 now, and I forgot to mention in the last check-in that Alina couldn't call upon her power either. I'm pretty sure she knew at the end of the last book that it was because she was so far in the underground that she couldn't like call upon the sun or whatever. Like at the beginning of this, the Apparat is like basically taking care of all of them. They're letting him take care of them because he saved them last time, but this dude is just gross, you know? I mean, he's always been really gross, but I didn't think he was that important. He like actually makes me angry because he keeps saying he's trying to protect Alina and all that, but he's not letting her go up to the surface. He does. Because Alina keeps asking to go to the surface so she could use her power and probably like become strong again, but he won't let her. He's also isolating her from all of her friends. To top it all off, he's using her friends as leverage against Alina. Yeah, he's like using them as leverage. He's like threatening to hurt them and stuff so that Alina can do whatever he wants. Alina is able to like call shadows, but it's just like, she's saying it's just like a party trick or whatever. Like they don't actually do anything. It's just like shadows that come in. It's just a remnant of her connection with the Darkling. In the chapters that I read, her friends helped her gain her summoning powers back by blowing a hole in the flue in the kitchens. I don't really know how that works. I'm assuming it's like an exhaust system for the kitchens. So now she like has access to her powers and she's feeling a little bit better, but she's still pretty weak. She's realizing now that there's a lot of men in her life that are pretty much all the same, like basically using other people for their own personal gain. Like she uses the example of Nikolai's brother Vasily commanding that the draft age be lowered, and also the Darkling destroying Nova Burst in order to show his power. So she's just like thinking that the Apparat is just the same as them because he's basically like using child soldiers and anybody who would show their support, even though that's not what Alina wants. I don't know, the Apparat is just a gross person. Yeah, it's just really messed up for him to use Alina just for like that and then isolate her from all of her friends and stuff. Alina and Mal's relationship is also a little bit messed up because of what happened at the little palace. The fact that he pushed her away when they were there, it like kind of like made her I can see that. I would be mad too. She was pretty isolated when she was at the little palace. Mal being like her best friend and everything, she needed him to be there for her, but he wasn't there. Finally, now that she can call upon her power, she tried to see the Darkling by coming to him in the same way that he came to her in the second book. Things are gonna get pretty exciting now because she can visit him basically whenever she wants now. So I'm excited for that whole communication to be happening. Even though the Darkling is like really old and stuff and very wise, he's still showing that he like is scared of her a little bit, and he hasn't visited her in this whole time that she's been underground. So I think he is like kind of scared of her. So the playing field is probably pretty even right now, and I'm like really excited to see what's gonna happen next. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to check in like later on today, but if I do, you'll know. And I'm just gonna keep reading, so I'll just see you guys whenever I have something else to update you with. Over the weekend, I went to Teresa's house for movie night. We made some s'mores and she gave me some early birthday presents. And what did we watch? You guessed it, Twilight. We watched both Twilight and New Moon, and we also went to the farmer's market. They have this book exchange which is completely free. So I got a couple of books because you know I needed to fill up my empty bookshelf. And they were also selling monarch caterpillars, which I've never seen before at a farmer's market. And I also got to drive her Bronco. It was literally just to the CVS, but I just love driving new cars sometimes. Hello everyone, it is Monday. I'm on chapter 7. I can't remember what I said in the last check-in as... Why is my chair making so much noise? So Alina and Mal pretty much were able to escape the apparat and like come out of the caves and stuff, and they get reunited with Nikolai, who was the prince from before. Oh, and Nikolai took them to like where he's been hiding out. Apparently he's been hiding in a mountain, which is pretty cool. He was able to escape with his parents and Baghra, and so they're all like hanging out over there. Alina goes to see Baghra, and Baghra's a lot nicer in this one than she was in the last book, but I think she hints that Baghra actually knows Ilya Morozova, which is kind of like a twist in itself. But before Alina could ask Baghra if she knew him, she got interrupted by Mal, because apparently there's a problem with Genya and the king. The audiobook pronounces her name Genya, but I read it as Genya, so I don't know how it's actually pronounced. But it makes sense that they have a problem because she poisoned the king in the last book. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm gonna try and get through a good portion of this book, and maybe I'll check in tonight. But I really just want to finish this early because this weekend I'm gonna be gone, so I want to be finished editing this video by the time I have to leave. I'm gonna have to rush a little bit when I'm reading this book, but I will check in whenever I can. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking now and I'm gonna read a little bit, and then I'll check in with you guys a little bit later. Okay, so I'm properly halfway through with it now. I think I've read like 3 chapters. No, I've read 2 chapters, but I'm halfway through with it now. Genya and the king, they confronted each other. Apparently she poisoned him through her skin. So anytime he touched her without her consent, he was basically poisoning himself. So Nikolai sent the king and the queen away. Otherwise he would have the king tried and hanged for SA. And then he didn't let off Genya, so Genya's gonna be tried for treason. After that, Baghra started training Alina, and she had her chop a mountain using the cut that was like 2 miles away. She said to chop the head off the mountain. It was pretty far, but Alina is the only person with 2 amplifiers too, so she was able to do that, which was pretty cool. Nikolai didn't propose to Alina, but he did because he gave her the family heirloom, which was an emerald ring. I guess his mom gave him the emerald ring and she told him who his father was. Apparently his father is like some Fjordan guy, but yeah, he gave her the ring, which I think essentially he's gonna like propose to her or something. Alina now is accepting that her and Mal can't really be a thing anymore. I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, I get it, because honestly I haven't been a fan of Mal and Alina this whole time. I know a lot of people like them, but I'm just not one of those people. I like her and Nikolai better, but they just don't seem right, you know? And I think that's the whole theme of all of these books, is that Alina is just like set apart from everybody else, so she won't ever really be able to fit in with anyone, especially someone who is not Grisha. The Darkling is kind of using that idea and like kind of drilling it into her head. I think he's like manipulating her into thinking that he's the only one that will ever be good enough for her. She visited him again actually. This time he told her his name, and I guess his name is Alexander. She laughed because it was like a regular name, and I think the same thing, but I also think that Alexander is like a really nice name. They had a little bit of a steamy moment again, but Alina can't forget all of the murders that happened by his hands, and honestly, like, good for her, because he almost had me in that moment too, to be honest. Like, I was like, ooh, but like in the back of my mind I was like, but this is a bad person, like, stop acting this way. But that's how manipulative people are, right? So I'm gonna stop reading for today actually, and the reason why I want to stop reading right now is because my stomach kind of hurts. But I guess tonight I can still continue to read. I just don't really want to film any more check-ins, but definitely I will film a check-in tomorrow morning, and I'll talk to you guys then. Hello, it is now Tuesday. I didn't want to film an update before I did my makeup, but I started reading this book before I started doing my makeup. I just read chapter 11. Oh my god, like, I love this book, but it makes me so sad with how many people die. I read a couple chapters last night after I checked in, right? What I had read last night was basically them just preparing to leave. Alina and Nikolai, they plan to go to West Ravka to hopefully gain another ally in the war. And then Mal and the others were going to try and find the Firebird, right? Hi, it's a little bit later, but Bagra actually tells us her whole origin story to Alina. It's actually really interesting what she says, because I think I mentioned earlier that Alina didn't get the chance to ask her how she knows Morozova, so she finally told her in the part that I read last night. I guess Bagra is Morozova's daughter, which is so crazy because I've been wondering this whole time like how the Darkling and Bagra got their power, because they're like the only two people who have this power. But I guess with all the experiments that Morozova was doing, like him experimenting with like creating life and stuff, maybe when Bagra was born it caused her to develop this sort of Grisha power that's like unique only to her. But anyway, yeah, Bagra is Morozova's daughter, so that would make the Darkling, since the Darkling is Bagra's son, that would make the Darkling the grandson of Morozova. I know I never explained like the story of Morozova, but I guess like he was made a martyr, and she god, there's so much. Bagra had a sister too who didn't have any powers, and one time when they were children she accidentally used a cut on her. That's when Morozova used his Grisha power to heal the daughter, but the village couldn't handle it, so they drowned both of them. And that's the whole martyr story about Morozova and stuff. But then Bagra says that it's really hard to kill really powerful Grisha, so she suspects that Morozova survived and was able to continue his work. Alina also suspects that Bagra's sister had some power, but she didn't like show it yet. And Alina also said that if they did survive, that if the other daughter had power, it's possible that it was the sun summoning power. And we all know that Alina is an orphan, so we don't know where she actually came from. So it's entirely possible that Alina could be related to the Darkling. So that would be really weird. An interesting twist, but not too crazy of a twist. It's also possible that Morozova is still alive, because if Bagra is still alive and the Darkling's still alive, like, they live very, very long lives if they're really powerful. So maybe Morozova is still alive. But anyway, let's get back to what I was saying before. So they had gotten all this stuff prepared. I think I mentioned this in the last check-in, but Alina goes and visits the Darkling. Not only does she find out that his name is Alexander, but she also finds out that, or she gets like a hint from him that he might have gotten some of her power as well. I don't know why it never occurred to me that if she has some of his power, then maybe he has some of her power. David had a little project he was working on, I think, of something that could destroy Nichevoya with only like a little bit of light. And if the Darkling had a little bit of Alina's power, then he could probably make the thing that David was working on and go into the fold, basically. So then everyone was pretty much like, all right, we gotta get like all this stuff ready so we can finally leave. And get to West Ravka before the Darkling gets there and stuff, right? They were about to leave, I think, and the Darkling finds them in the mountain. I think Sergei gave it away, but we don't know if like he did it willingly or if he was like tortured. My guess is that he was tortured to give information about where they were located, but the Darkling goes there. Again, with the incredible battle scenes, I am just appalled at the cruelty of the Darkling. So basically what happens is that the Nichevoya are there. I don't think I mentioned this in the last vlog, but the Nichevoya basically cannot be hurt or like destroyed by just regular bullets and stuff. The sunlight from Alina and like her doing the cut, I think, is the only way to destroy them. So that's basically why these Nichevoya are such a huge threat, because everyone's pretty much helpless against them. They can't destroy them. Only Alina is the only one who can destroy them. So the Darkling and his Nichevoya can't come, and also his like soldiers or whatever. He tells her that Sergei gave this information out, basically kills Sergei. Poor Sergei. Almost kills Nikolai, but he doesn't end up killing him. He actually turns Nikolai into a Volcra. And Alina's just watching this happen. God, I feel so bad for them. And I'm so angry with the Darkling too. I think Alina perfectly describes how I feel about the Darkling in this one quote. She says, "I'd warned Nikolai of the Darkling's vengeance, but even I couldn't have foreseen the elegance of this, the perfect cruelty. Nikolai had made a fool of the Darkling, and now the Darkling had taken my polished, brilliant, noble prince and made him into a monster. Death would have been too kind." It's so sad to read about this. And throughout all of this, Nikolai still has some of his sanity because he flies away feeling anguished and confused. I cannot imagine, I can't even begin to imagine how Nikolai feels right now. Alina too, watching her friend turn into a Volcra. I don't even know how to like respond to this sort of thing. Like I mean I'm angry, of course, but like thankfully Bagra comes in and she distracts the Darkling, and Alina and Mal and them, they all end up getting away. I think Adric is like really injured. All the rest of them are able to get away. At this point, I really have no clue what's gonna happen, but I'm gonna do my makeup and I'm gonna keep reading, and I'm gonna have to do like a speed run of this and finish this today. I can finish it today. I really don't have that much left. I'll check in with you guys later after I finish doing my makeup, so I'll see you guys then. So I finished doing my makeup and I was listening to the audiobook that whole time, and I paused it because I feel like something's about to happen. I suspected that Morozova was still alive, and I also suspected that Alina was related to Morozova because he had the other daughter. So right now they've escaped the mountains where they were attacked by the Darkling, and they're going back to Dvastolba. I don't know how to pronounce it, but they're going back to where Alina and Mal came from, and I just know that something's about to happen, and they're trying to find the Firebird like as quickly as possible. And this is also like kind of going into Shuhan territory, which is like the other country that's like bordering Ravka. I'm guessing that something is literally about to happen. Like, I just know it. They're either about to find the Firebird or they're gonna find other sun summoners, because they're seeing like these white whirls of light. So those are my two guesses. This is getting like really exciting, and it's coming towards the end of the book, the end of the series really, and I'm just really excited to read it. I'm gonna warm up my coffee because it's gotten a little bit cold, and then I'm gonna actually like physically read this part because I just know that something is about to happen. Oh, I get it now. Wait. Okay, I have to. So this makes so much sense now. Oh my gosh, this book is so good. Alina and Mal find the Firebird, right? This is a thing they've been looking for the longest time. In the second book, there was one time, only one time, when Mal and Alina touched each other and like this surge of like power jolted through both of them, and they kind of just like dismissed that. So they go up this cliff and they think that they're gonna find the Firebird at the top of the cliff, but they don't. Mal and Alina are having like a conversation together, kind of separated from everybody else, and the Firebird ends up showing up, almost knocks Alina off of the cliff. And when Mal reaches down to grab her and like get her off of the cliffside, the jolt of power goes through both of them again, but this time he's like forced to like hang on to her because he doesn't want her to fall, obviously. And then they let the Firebird go, and I'm like, okay, what is happening? So they go back to the others, and the others are like, that was it, like you guys just let it get away. They explain to the others that Mal is actually the third amplifier. It makes a lot of sense because remember, like in the second book, I was like, how is it possible that Mal spent months trying to find the stag and then he finds the sea whip in a week? Both of those times Alina was with him, like they were literally together. I think they kissed in the first book and they found the stag, and then in the second book they were reunited after the Darkling kind of separated them, and then once they were reunited they found the sea whip. So they were meant to find the two amplifiers together, and this whole time they're trying to find the third amplifier for Alina to make the Soldiers of Light so that she can fight the Nichavoya, because that would be the only way to destroy them. All this talk about Morozova trying to bring his daughter back to life, and I know this is really confusing for those of you who haven't read this book, because I know there's some people who haven't read this book that are watching this video. She actually became Morozova's third amplifier because she actually died when her sister gave her the cut, and because she was sacrificed, that became Morozova's third amplifier. I didn't really realize this before, but I guess Morozova chose these three amplifiers, and because he was choosing these amplifiers, it ended up being his daughter that became the third amplifier. She survived because she was supposed to be drowned with him, and then she ended up passing on this third amplifier sort of thing, and Mal ended up being the descendant of Morozova also. Oh, and it also makes sense why Alina's power came out whenever she was trying to save Mal when they first went into the fold, like at the very beginning. I knew it. I knew there was something off about Mal. Not off, but like I knew there was something special about him. I just remember complaining about why does this, like, how is this possible that he is able to track so well? Like, I just knew that there had to be something different about Mal. So that was a big reveal, I guess. And now I think Alina has to kill Mal. Isn't that how it goes? Like, she has to kill the third amplifier and make their bones into the last like little bracelet thing. Once I finish this chapter, I have 3 chapters left, so I'm gonna finish this off and finally finish all of these vlogs. So I'll see you guys a little bit later. All right, everyone, final update for Ruin and Rising. I finished the book. Just to give a quick recap of what happened before the ending of this book. So after they found out that Mal was the last amplifier, they found out that the Darkling had kidnapped the children from Karamzin. She had sent like a bunch of Grisha children to Karamzin to keep them safe and like away from all the war that's happening. The Darkling ended up going there, and now he's threatening Alina with the children to like throw them into the fold or whatever. He gave her like 5 days, I think. So they came up with this whole plan to basically conceal themselves and sneak the children out. The Squallers, the people who have powers with like the wind and stuff, they were able to hide like the sound that they were making. And then Alina earlier in the book had figured out how to like make them invisible by like having the light refract off of them or something. So basically like they were gonna sneak the children out by being invisible. So when the Darkling took his forces and they assumed the children onto the skiff and like took them into the fold, they went and tried to save the children, but the children ended up not being there. The Darkling started to like win and stuff, and Mal was like, you know, this is it, like you have to kill me now, because that's like basically their last resort, and Alina could pretty much now like be more powerful to defeat the Darkling. But when she killed Mal, her power went away, and it went to everyone that didn't have power. Everyone that previously were not Grisha became sun summoners, and Alina lost her power, and the other amplifiers were destroyed. And the Darkling came up to her and realized that she was basically not Grisha anymore. Alina took this opportunity, and with the last bit of power that she had from the Darkling, she used that to stab him in the heart, and that's how she killed him. So everybody that was able to get the sun summoning power, they ended up destroying the fold because there were so many of them. They were like casting out their light everywhere and stuff. Tolia and Tamar were able to save Mal, so Mal ended up surviving, and also Nikolai turned back into his normal self, which made me really happy because that was such a devastating fate to be had. If he just stayed a Volcra, that would have been so horrifying. So he ended up becoming a human again since the Darkling was dead and like his powers just like basically went away and stuff. Nikolai became king. Genya, David, and Zoya became the leaders of the second army. Tolia and Tamar are with Nikolai, I think, too. And both Mal and Alina lost their like power. So Mal actually did have like a power of being a tracker, and he lost that after he was used as the third amplifier. And then Alina lost her sun summoning power too, so they became normal people. Alina wanted to fake her death so that she could live a normal life. One of the Soul That Soul, one of the sun soldiers or whatever, Genya disguised her body to make it look like Alina's and used her body as like the burial for the sun summoner because she wanted to stay dead and stuff. Also, they nicknamed Nikolai the King of Scars, which I think is one of the books that is also written by Leigh Bardugo in the same universe. So now I know who that book is about, and that kind of makes me more excited to read it. I don't know what people think of that book, but since it's about Nikolai, I think it'll be a good book, right? Mal and Alina started a new orphanage in Karamzin, and they live happily ever after. Okay, so I haven't read that many fantasy novels, but I feel like this series as a whole had a fairly general sequence of events. I just watched a TikTok today of like a really similar plot summary of a book like this, but overall I think this book was way better than the second book. I think the second book is probably the worst out of the three just because it's like so incredibly slow, but this one I feel like I was able to pick it up and read it fairly well without getting bored. So that says a lot about that because I have a really short attention span, just wanting to know like what's gonna happen next, what is gonna be revealed in the next chapter. I just feel like every chapter in here had a little bit something more to give. So I really liked it because of that. The fact that they made Nikolai into a Volcra like just had me like so angry, but like also thinking that this book is so good to make me feel that way about a person. The whole lore and the story of Ilya Morozova was really interesting to read about too. Damn, I don't even know what to rate it. I have such a hard time rating things, and I really don't like this whole rating system because it doesn't fully encompass like how I feel about books sometimes, and people see just that rating and they think like, oh, that's what she rated it. That should be a reason for me to start writing reviews in Goodreads, but I'm very lazy, so I may, but I may not. But that's why I make these YouTube videos, right? I would say the series as a whole is a 4-star. This isn't gonna be my favorite series, I just know that, but it still is a really great series. So this one, I'm keeping it a 5 out of 5 stars. I actually had a lot of fun reading this like towards the end and stuff. Was not a chore to read at all. So I think 5 out of 5 stars is what it deserves. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I really hope you enjoyed this series if you watched. So definitely subscribe if that's something that you're interested in watching. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up because that helps me out so much. Comment any other video suggestions if you have any, and subscribe because I post new videos twice a week. Also hit that notification bell if you want to be notified every time I upload. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!